Okay, so now let's insert into this framework that we've established here. Let's insert the Gemarrah's reasoning, and let's look at the Gemarrah. Says the Gemarrah. So Rabbi's statement is on its face problematic. Yes, we don't have a clear understanding of why the value shifts from 1 to 4. We also have no idea what happens if the value shifts from 4 to 1.
We also don't know what Meikara and Hashta mean, of course.
We also don't know what Hashta means and Meikara means. Although that's already, I think, a little bit of a less problem, because Meikara means at the time of the theft, and Hashta means at the time of the replacement, or at the time of the catching of the thief. But okay, that's true. There's no clear definition of those things either. Now the Gemarrah comes and inserts itself. Says the Gemarrah, my timer. First of all, it quotes the place. Itba memela mishalem zuzah. If it broke by itself, it's re-quoting the case. Itba memela mishalem zuzah. If it breaks, you pay a zuz. If it breaks by itself, my timer. What's the reason that you pay a zuz? It breaks by itself. Kivan the isa bahad, because if the barrel was extant, if the barrel was currently existing, hadra lemara be'ena, he would return the barrel when he was caught as a thief, and he would return that very barrel that he stole to the owner, and therefore hahi shaita. No. I'm sorry.
That's the next part.
That's the other part. I'm reading backwards. Sorry. Okay. My timer. Even the Isa, if it was existing, the barrel, and it was only worth a zuz when he took it, and now it's worth 4. At that moment that he drank it or he broke it, that's the point that he stole it. So if it broke by itself, the continuum and it's worth a zuz all the way along, even if it's worth 4 at the end. Sorry, if he did nothing to disturb the value of the object, then he pays what he did at the time of the theft. Why? Because soon the Gemarrah is going to quote a Mishnah that tells you all Gazlanim pay at the time that they stole. Mm-hmm. Later on, it became more in value. Then comes perhaps Dr. Flug's idea that once he stole it, it belongs to him. And if it belongs to him, whether the object goes up in value or decreases in value is not in the parameter of whether he pays that value back or not. Because the moment of the theft is the moment of the value that he steals. And if the moment of the value that he steals is only 1 zuz, then he pays back 1 zuz. And the fact that it becomes later on worth 4, it's true that the owner is damaged by the fact that he no longer has a barrel that's worth 4. But why is it that the owner can't sue for the 4? Why is it that he only has a right to 1?
Well, why did he choose to sue at that time? He should have sued right away.
He didn't know.
That's the moment that it was taken from him.
Good. That's the moment it was taken from him. That's right. And since that moment is the critical moment, the moment that it was taken from him is the critical moment, then the damage that he does to him, even though the replacement value is 4, but the damage that he does to him, let's call it the direct damage is how much?
1.
Is 1. So since the direct damage is 1, and it just by virtue happens that the object is worth more now, that is an indirect result of that moment that the barrel left the owner's rishus. What happens if the barrel was worth now a half?
He would still pay 1.
He'd still pay 1. Why? Because what does a person pay for? You don't like it, Mr. Liz? You don't like it, Mr. Liz?
There's a concept in civil law, the difference between actual damages and consequential damages. Actual damages is the case where when it's removed from the person's possession, whatever the value is at that particular point in time, that's called actual damages. Consequential damages is what happens or what could have happened had the Ganav not committed the crime.
Right.
And so there's a demarcation in many situations where you can only sue for actual damages. You can't sue for consequential damages.
Exactly. Because why is that?
Because consequential damages are not within the control of either the owner or the Ganav. So you'd be making the Ganav responsible for something that he hasn't done.
Good. Exactly. So translated into these terms, the Ganav's action stole 1 zuz.
Right.
That's the action of the Ganav. He stole 1 zuz. If he stole 1 zuz, he has to replace 1 zuz.
That gives you the perfect answer to why it's difference if Tavar of Shasya Mimela or Tavar of Shasya with action.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right.
Meaning if Tavar of Shasya Mimela, he had no control over it. If he broke it himself, so now he's inserting himself into the damages.
Yes. So
the
only problem with that is the language that the Gemarrah chose to use. It's very sound because when he breaks the barrel, and that is the action that causes the barrel not to be able to be returned. That action, that's not the moment of theft, but that action is the action that causes the barrel not to be able to be returned. Then the Gemarrah Rabbi says, that's the moment of the damage, the direct physical damage to the owner. That moment, it's not the moment that the value was removed from his possession. It's the moment that it's no longer able to be returned to him because of an action. Where there's no action, where the barrel breaks by itself, the only action that's a direct damage to the owner is the action of the theft. So it's at that moment of the theft where the direct consequence of his action by removing it from the owner's house is that he caused the owner that damage. That's what he pays. But where he breaks it with his own hands, that becomes the moment that he's no longer able to give it back. And that shifts not the theft, but that shifts the evaluation of the direct damage of the theft from the moment of the actual removal from his property to the moment that the barrel is no longer able to be replenished, or able to be returned. That's what the moment does. That's how it shifts. So when Rabbi makes his statement, he's telling you an amazing idea, an amazing chiddush, that it's got the value of your theft, the value of what you do is when you directly damage the owner. The moment of the direct damage to the owner that doesn't allow him to get his barrel back. If the direct damage was a zuz and it stays a zuz and it breaks by itself, that's when the direct damage does. It's kind of, not exactly, kind of like you've been trying to say, that the barrel would have broken here or there. That's where the damage happens. It's inconsequential. But it's not really that, because it's a matter in Geneva, it's a matter of not only when the object is, that's the Chiddush of Rava, not only when the object is removed from the possession of the owner. That's not the only criteria. Another criteria is when the object is no longer, by deed, by doing something, by breaking it, by drinking it, is no longer able to be replaced. And if it's no longer able to be replaced, that's where the value is established. And that's the understanding that the Gemarrah wants you, I believe, to have. The words are a bit troublesome, I have to admit, because I think that that's the intent of the Gemarrah, and I think that that's the reasoning that we've built up as to how the Gemarrah is operating, as to how Rabbi is operating, because if not, it's very hard if you don't say those things. Now, so we'll read it inside and you'll see. That moment that he broke it or that he drank it, because that's the moment he stole it from him. Better said, that's the moment that he caused the damage that's not able to be replaced to the owner. And utanan, and now furthermore, we learn a Mishnah. The Gemarrah is going to substantiate its reasoning with a Mishnah, which means it wants to bolster the idea that it created and try and give you a precursor to Rabbi, an impetus of a halachic proof to the idea that the Gemarrah has been saying. Utanan, and we learned in the Mishnah as well, all the Gazlanim pay at the time of the Gezela. Now, if you just took this as the time of the Gezela, as we've been struggling, and called the time of the Gezela, the theft, the moment that the barrel left the owner's house, what is that Mishnah? That Mishnah says you pay 1 zuz. If you took it from the house of the owner at 1 zuz. But obviously, if they're using a Mishnah like that to substantiate this idea of Rabbi, that if it gets more expensive and you broke it, that's the impetus, that's the moment that the barrel becomes your responsibility because it can no longer be returned to the owner. That's the moment that you have to pay. And that, in some sense, is called the time of the Gezela. We have to say it that way, even though it's hard. And then the Gemarrah goes to the next case. And then the Gemarrah says, if it broke by itself, you pay 1 zuz, my timer. Why? If you broke by itself, you pay 1 zuz. Now, when the barrel broke by itself, later on, he did nothing. There was no action that caused the barrel to break. Elo, it broke by itself. And since it broke by itself, why are you going to make him pay more money? The moment that happened, the Gezela, at the moment that the Gezela happened, at that moment it was worth a zuz, and there was no other direct action that caused the owner a loss. So once there was no other direct action that caused the owner a loss, you can't charge the money to the ganef. His action, his geneva was at the time it was worth a zuz. He never did an action at any other time in the continuum of the value chain. So you can only penalize him for the action that, as Mr. List called it in the secular law, what's that, Mr. List?
Actual damages.
Actual damages. That's the actual damage. The moment his hand created the loss to the owner that couldn't be replaced. So, okay, so that's the reasoning, apparently, of Rabbi.
Doesn't Rabbi, you have a Mishnah stating this broad rule that Kol Gazlan Misham Kshas Exela, and then Kshas Exela is 20 different times. I mean, it's
Kishas. It's Kishas, not Bishas. Anyway,
that's nice. Who said that?
I did.
Beeler.
Who's I? Rabbi Bila? Oh, very nice. Kishas. Oh, I have to think about that, Rabbi. I have to think about that. That's good. That's good. Kishas. Okay, very interesting.
And so what
Okay,
happens
the next.
if the price
the next-
goes down? He has a
What?
direct action and the price is down?
Yeah, good. What happens if there's a direct? Good. That's the follow-up question. What happens if it was 4 when he stole it out of the house, but when he broke it, it was worth 1?
It's going to say Kishas Hotzah also coming up.
That's a great question. What happens if the value goes down? And that's why I said before, that issue, Rabbi doesn't address at all. He only addresses where it became more expensive. He doesn't talk about when it got cheaper. And we have to know the answer to that. Now, Beis Hillel addresses that issue because Beis Hillel attributes the value to the time of the Hotzah min ha'olam. I'm sorry, of the Gemarrah. Hotzah, of the taking it out. Taking it out of what the Gemarrah is going to ask in a minute. But taking it out. So we assume, if we're just reading this on its face, that Hotzah means the taking it out of the possession of the owner. That's our operating assumption. The Gemarrah is going to ask on that and say maybe Hotzah doesn't mean that at all. We'll soon see. That's the next layer of the Gemarrah. That's the next level that the Gemarrah is going to deal with. And then the Gemarrah is going to come back after it establishes the machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, or at least tries to. The Gemarrah is going to come back and ask, okay, now where does Rabbi, in his idea of the action, of the direct cause action, where does he fit into the idea of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai? That's the next level of the Gemarrah. I think that because we've plowed this, thank God, so thoroughly in these few sessions, I think that the next time we meet, the Gemarrah is going to flow much more smoothly and we'll be able to cover more ground because we prepared the soil before the next case. So, Mirz Hashem, I hope it'll be a happy Sukkot. It should be a Sukkot Shalom. It should be a full Sukkot. It was a very painful Yom Tov season up till now, at least for me, in the fact that things were as difficult as they were, and the Mirz Hashem, we should see them get easier in the next days and weeks. So have a very nice Sukkot. Enjoy, I hope, with your families and loved ones, and have a wonderful Sukkot.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach.